are back. We are still at the base of the Perry Monument on Presque Isle with our beautiful bay and lagoon back
you know, this
here.
series of videos, we really are giving you some of the best scenery.
Actually, I could just sit here all afternoon. We
could
so
just leave it running,
It's
chatting.
really nice. The breeze is blowing. It's just the gulls are crying and flying, and yeah, water. I like it here.
I do too. So come to Erie, check it out. We're still talking about real life experiences that inspired our fiction. And for me, I found my biological father later in life. I was in my 30s, as a matter of fact, and it was pretty amazing. And I was very lucky because I know it could have gone in another direction.
Absolutely.
But we still talk on a regular basis. My kids know him, and I'm not getting into the actual family history of it, but that idea of finding family, who's your family, how we build families. I think you see that theme in pretty much all my books, comedy, drama, it doesn't matter. I think that idea of family, how families are put together, I've spent a lot of time talking about it, but one that directly relates to that idea of a biological parent is Hold Her Heart. I had done a book, Carry Her Heart, about a woman who got pregnant in her teens, gave the baby up for adoption, and really built a life around this child she did not have. And when I finished, the editor said, now she's going to find her daughter. And I said, no, that's a cop-out. She is not going to find her daughter. She is going to find peace. And so at the end of the book, there's a romance. She finds that, but she finds peace about this child.
But I have a book in the closet that's not finished that relates to adoption and whatnot, because my ex-husband, same thing. He was adopted at birth and found his his birth family when our son was about 2 years old, and so again
I think these days it's very powerful. So when I went to write Hold Her Heart, it had been years and the daughter had not come, and they decided to wait for her to come. And she eventually does come home and finds this family she didn't have, and that conflict of, I have parents I grew up with and I loved, and yet here's someone who has spent her whole life waiting to meet me, and the power of that and the almost burden of that, having someone love you that much that you don't know from Adam. I loved writing that book. I absolutely loved, and it related.
It's a conflicty, emotionally conflicty kind of situation, and just fraught with emotion to put your characters in. So it makes absolute sense.
Well, I'm hoping that readers think so as well. So how about you?
Again, I think I've said this before, but surrogacy and fertility issues do come up in a number of my books. And again, one of the reasons is simply because I find them fascinating, because there's just so many emotions that go with it. But also, again, I had one child, and that was not by my personal design, that was by God's design. It didn't, there were some fertility issues, and we decided not to get crazy about it. No, there were no surrogates in my situation. There was none of that. Everybody has to. That's one of those very personal things where everybody has to choose their own path. So, was happy with the one.
Your books are very different than your real life experience.
Exactly.
But that real life experience inspired the books.
It's still there. Right. And again, interesting. One of the things too, because I did recently see there's been a whole big discussion, but the fact that each individual's experience is their experience, and it's the same with a character. So you don't get to go, oh my gosh, well, that character didn't do it the way that I would do it. Frankly, none of my characters do it the way I would do it myself either.
Oh, that's let's do that as a video coming up, because that's a good one.
Well, there you go. That's going to be a spin-off of this one. We're going to talk about
characters. We'll do that one next. So, but yeah, our real life experiences really do, I think, impact our books, and you see them if you know us.
Just one thing.
Oh, just one
I
thing.
tell you that all the time, that I feel like there are parts of that book, and I don't know if you actually meant it to be this way, but I feel like there are parts of that book that connect to me so strongly, and because I was going through personal stuff before you wrote that book, and I feel like you captured some of the some of the emotion and the stuff that you heard me say while I was going through that period of my life, I think came out in that book. To me,
right,
anyway.
right.
Again,
And, well,
that
see,
might be
but
my perception.
That is a compliment.
Absolutely,
that when somebody
it's a
picks up a
compliment.
book and they can find themselves or find things that resonate
Absolutely.
for themselves in it. It was a book that it took me years to write, like literally years.
And I kept telling her to write
Because
it.
I wrote it in between other things. I wrote it when I had some time off. And I wrote it just for me. It was a book my agent couldn't sell for anything. People kept sending us back, you know, we really love this book, or this book made me cry and I adored this book. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because you can list the things it's not. It is a romance, but it is not a traditional romance. For people who follow me on Facebook and know my love of Mondays, there is definitely an homage to Monday and Friends That Way. My love of Guinness is in there. So there are a lot of those kind of things, but it is a book that
It's a
touched
romance.
on.
Your romance plus. It's more,
definitely a romance.
It's a romance / women's fiction, leaning toward the women's fiction side of things.
Right, but the romance is still pivotal to her journey.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we're going over time. We're going to come back and see you in the next episode, and we're going to have a spin-off.